Okay, so this tutorial is going to deal with displaying and some security issues of form data. Now, I've made a little script here before this tutorial started, and basically if I just open up context, it's a simple script. We've got the form here. It's basically a text area and an input button. That's all you really need to know. And then we've got a post method on our form, and the action is to the same page. Here's the PHP code. As the data is submitted to this page, basically all we're doing is grabbing this data using our post variable here and grabbing this about me just here, and then we're just echoing this out as normal. So you may notice that when you post form data, let's say about me, I'm going to say I have a cat called Tabby, and I'm going to put Tabby in inverted commas right here. If you press submit, now we've got the displayed form data here. Basically what's happened is we've had slashes added. Now PHP forms, when you're submitting, does do this by default. Now if you want to get rid of this, you may have heard of the strip slashes function. There's one problem with the strip slashes function. It does do exactly what it says. Let's just refresh this, resend this data. Strip slashes, spell it right. Okay, so we're going to resend that data. You can see that now this is not displayed slashes, so that's successful. But now the only problem is what we can do is what we couldn't do before is now we can do things like add HTML code that contains single quotes or inverted commas, as we've used here. So for example, what I could do here is say meta http equiv, and we're going to say refresh, and then the content equals, what we're going to do is say 0, the URL equals google.com. Now basically what this code here is going to do is it's going to redirect us. So if I click submit, that's redirected us now to Google. So this is a potential security issue. Even though we've displayed our form data properly, this has now become a security issue. So what we use instead is we use a function called HTML entities. Now obviously you're going to know what HTML is, but entities basically means symbols, and all this does is it displays the exact, it basically converts the symbols that you can see, like the inverted commas, the semicolons, the slashes, anything in here. It converts it to entities, which are sort of codes for symbols. So now what's going to happen is if we submit this, you can see that it actually shows the HTML data itself and doesn't execute the code inside the browser. So if we press view page source, just cut this down a bit, you can see that we've got little symbols here for each thing we're using. So instead of having it as actual code inside the script itself, inside our page, it's showing it as data that we're going to display to the user. So this is a really useful function if you're submitting data through a browser that could be displayed. You might be submitting data that's going into a database and then being displayed on a page. This would be equally as useful as if you're taking data from a database of this sort. Then it's still a potential security risk. Let's say I was going to say we can put some bold tags in. This still hasn't worked. So it's useful if you don't want your users to display any HTML code. Instead, I'm just going to say I have a cat called Tabby. Submit. That's still showing out correctly. We're still getting our inverted commas, but we're disabling HTML and therefore disabling the potential security risks that has. And obviously the strip slashes function just keeps it showing as normal. You can remove this strip slashes function, but you can see that what happens is if we resend this data, we're still going to have the slashes added in there, which is a bit of a pain. So these two functions alone are pretty useful. Basically all they're doing is they're allowing you to display it correctly, and then they're adding the security, well, they're removing the security issue that comes with the removing the slashes. So that's basically a short tutorial, just a little security thing. If you are following my other tutorials, this would probably be really useful for you, or if you're developing outside my tutorials, then this is equally useful, especially if you're putting this out on the web. You need to take security into account. Okay, so that's about that for that tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, hope you found this useful, and see you guys later. Bye bye.